What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Clubhouse Talk. As always, I am Sean Ferguson. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video and any of my other content, please like and subscribe. You can also follow me on CH Talk Show on X. It's still really weird to call it that. I'll always know it as Twitter, but X, Twitter, whatever it's called now, follow me there as well. And on this Tropical Storm Debbie day here in North Carolina, where it's just awful outside, I want to do another video and bring on my friend who this will be his second time on the show with me, but it's going to be second of many, I promise. Mr. Eli Shelton, how are you doing today, Eli?
Sean, I'm doing great. This is it's a pretty big day here in the world of baseball, as you've known. But I'm super pumped to be here.
Yeah, it's great. As you were coming on, yeah, like I said, we were in the middle of some news there. Pedro Grifol is gone to the White Sox, which is not shocking at all. It's just another terrible thing for that organization. Just another headline in a negative light for that organization.
Yeah, I mean, finishing his tenure there with an 89 and 190 record is abysmal. Look, right now they're 28 and 89. They are more likely to have finished with the worst record than not at this point. With the way pacing works in baseball, they would need to go on this huge run to stifle that. And fresh off a 21 game losing streak, I'm a Pistons fan. I understand how these losing streaks operate. They don't just stop and you go on win streaks. There's this is going to be a really rough period for the White Sox organization, and they haven't named an interim manager yet. They haven't exactly laid out what they're looking for in their new manager. So right now, it's sort of day one of another reset for the Chicago White Sox, and it's sad to see as an AL Central guy seeing an organization that used to be really competitive now just taking over what my team used to be.
Yeah, it's sad, and I think a part of it too, like who wants to manage that team right now?
Oh,
There's not I wouldn't want to manage that team. It's bad at this point. I think they're just looking for a body in there. It's this season is definitely a lost season, and it made me a little happy when they tied the AL record losing streak because the Orioles held it by themselves. So now it's nice to have somebody right next to them. It's like, yeah, trust me, I know bad, you know bad. So it's nice to have a
oh
partner
yeah.
at the top. But yeah, I just think at this point, like who kind of wants to manage that team? And I don't think there's a lot of suitors right now.
I think right now, and I will say this: I'm not advocating for anybody to be fired. I am surprised Chris Getz did not get fired.
Not
I,
yet.
I feel I feel right now that the organization needs a total reshuffle. It does feel that way because, I mean, you look at the core that they had. They just got rid of Eloy Jimenez. He was sent to Baltimore. You failed to trade Garrett Crochet, and you failed to trade Luis Robert Jr. Now, there's talks about the offseason and all that. But I think the biggest step that the White Sox need to take is a total overhaul of the organization. There should not be double digit returning players. There should be a totally new roster going into next year. You need to reset, retool, and yes, rebuild. So they have got to really change a lot before they can really start thinking about winning games again.
Yeah, it's sad. Just like you said earlier, how far they've come in a negative light. Like they were such a good team not that long ago. You think
Mhm.
about just a few years ago with when Jose Brady was there, just lighting the world on fire. Now they're here, set to they're on pace to set the most losses in a season record, which is it's sad, man. It's sad to see teams go through that again. We know that all well. My team was up there just a few years ago when it came to most losses
Same.
in the season and trying to break those records, which are not great. So it'll turn around eventually. When that turnaround is going to be, I don't know, but it's sad. It's sad for the White Sox. But talking on some good teams right now. The Guardians right now, they've lost 5 straight. I mean,
Mhm.
got started with my Orioles. Yeah, that series was great. It was a 4-game series. Guardians took the first two. The Orioles are still trying to come out of that funk that they're in, and then the Orioles were able to take the last 2 games of that series where the Guardians bullpen, which is the best bullpen in the league this year, they struggled really bad those last 2 games, and now they lost 3 straight after that, so 5 total. Do you think the Guardians are set for a Yankees slash Orioles kind of turbulence there? Like they went through the Yankees and Orioles. They both went through a little stretch, man, where they couldn't win games, and now they're kind of coming back. Do you think the Guardians are about to go through that, or do you think they'll be fine?
Now here's the thing. The Guardians have sort of been on this slow building tailspin, especially since July. I watched them in a series against my Tigers. They weren't performing so well. I believe the Tigers took 3 out of 4, which is really, I mean, you're the first place team taking on the fourth place team. You got it. You have to at least split or take 3 or 4. If you're going to lose 3 or 4 to that, that's damaging. So Cleveland right now is sort of on this downtrend, whereas you've got teams like the Yankees right now who are 8-2 in their last 10. They're back on their way up since the trade deadline, which is a totally different look from last year where they were in this position and rather than being able to rebound, they completely fell off. But right now, the Guardians have a good benefit of maintaining a really good roster. I think they've done exactly what Tampa Bay has been known for doing, and they really don't get credit. Now they're off today, so that's some good news. And then they will be going to Minnesota, then to Chicago to face the Cubs. So these are 2 series that they have to win, especially this Twins one. The Twins are right on their tail at the moment, and they're going to need to do something to keep the Minnesota Twins from surging. They're 6-4, but they've lost their last 2. So I don't see any pathway for the Guardians to completely fall apart unless this Twins series goes just completely awry.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like every team atop the standings have done this year. I'm looking at the standings now. It's so congested at the top. You have
Mm-hmm.
you have a good handful of teams that are right around the same as each other. You got the Phillies, Orioles, Yankees, Guardians, and the Dodgers are right around there as well. And then it starts to come down a little bit. But those 5 teams are just so close to each other at the top. The Phillies, Orioles, and Yankees right now, they're tied for the best record in baseball. That's crazy. This deep into the season, you have 3 teams tied for the best record, and the Guardians are a half game out of that, and the Dodgers a game and a half out of that. So we're so close to it. I feel like you know these teams play so well for good stretches. They're bound to have a little dip. And I knew it was going to come for the Orioles like it did. You got this team full of super young players that they're surrounded by some veterans who have more experience than them, but it's going to happen. Adley Rutschman started off red hot, and then he took it. I mean, his ERA, wow, his batting average is well over 3, but now it's down to the 260s somewhere around there. So it's going to happen. The Yankees went through it with their stacked roster. They went through one. The Phillies came down a little bit. Now the Guardians are going through it. So I'm not surprised, but hopefully for their sake that they're able to turn around like these other teams are. They're not in a too dangerous situation right now, just because, like I said, how congested the top of not even the divisions, just the league in general is right now, which is, again, it's crazy to have 3 teams tied for the best record in baseball this deep into the season. They're all 21 games above 500. The Guardians are 20. So it's cool to see just because of how even the playing field is and how level it is. And it's just going to make it that much more exciting down the stretch. But it's really going to be who's going to turn around faster. As we're getting, like I said, really close to the end of the season here. Who's going to turn around faster? Who's going to run into the postseason with that momentum? And hopefully the Guardians can turn around. I think they will. They're stacked enough. They just need to, fix the holes that are leaking water right now. But I think overall they'll be fine. When it comes to my Orioles, I got to talk Jackson Holliday, man. I'm loving it. He started off 2 for 32 in his first stint in the big leagues. Like I said this before. I really feel like the Orioles' hands were forced when it came to calling him up the first time because He's the number one prospect in baseball. He's absolutely killing it in the minor leagues. You got to call this guy up. You got to call this guy up just because there wasn't really a stronghold of that second base position. So you got to call him up. They did. He went 2 for 32, send him back down. Everyone's calling him a bust. Not a bust. Okay. The kid's 20 years old. It's going to take some time. Now he's back in the second stint. He's 9 of 23 with 4 home runs and 11 RBIs. It's just it's small sample size, but compared this stint to his first one, it's I talked to you about this too. I feel like it's the Grayson Rodriguez thing last year. The Orioles called up Rodriguez. He's his top pitching prospect. He started off awful. It looked like he was tipping pitches. He wasn't comfortable yet, and he had a lot of pressure on him. They sent him back down. He's been called back up. First full season now. After having a really good second half last year, he's 13-4 this year. And I think that's kind of what happened to Holliday. Let's give him a little time, breathe a little bit. Hey, you got some exposure. Just work on some of the holes you have in the big leagues, and I feel like he's worked on them. Yeah, of course he could still work on the strikeouts, but he's putting the bat to the ball, and that power is showing. And I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty big for Jackson Holliday so far. This second chance he's gotten here this season has been really impressive. 3 straight games with a home run. That's exactly what you want out of your top prospect. Kudos to Baltimore, though, because when Jackson Holliday went 2 for 32, they could have said, oh, he just needs an adjustment period. Let's give it time. Nope. They said, okay, he's not ready. Now everyone sees he's not ready. So we're going to send him back and we're going to make him ready. Now he looks ready. He looks ready and then some. And that's exactly what Baltimore needs, especially when you're tied for first place with not just the best record in baseball, but for the AL East. The Yankees are right there on them, neck and neck. Boston's sort of breathing up their necks, only 7 games back. But when you have such an immense threat behind you, like 2 juggernauts in Boston and New York, it is very important to make sure all of your players are playing at their best. And now to be able to add a player who is white hot at the moment, like Jackson Holliday, it really speaks to the longevity that the Orioles have and just the sustainability for them when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do when it comes to the postseason, because I feel like they're fixing small problems, but there's still little holes there. Like the Kobe Mayo, I think he's definitely going to go down. He's kind of Jackson Holiday in it right now. He's yet to get a hit since being called up. It's okay. He's not a bust. He's young. So he just needs to be sent back down. It's just, okay, who are we going to fill with this hole? Because the injuries are starting to pile up for that team. You still don't have Jorge Mateo there, who could play your second and can move things around. Your all-star third baseman, Jordan Westbrook's out with that fractured hand. You're still waiting for Heston Kershaw to come back from his concussion. So the Orioles are super deep when it comes to their offense and their bats, but now that's starting to be tested with all these injuries. And one area that has been tested more than I would like this year is their starting pitching, really pitching in general, but starting pitching has been hit a little bit more. They're already without 3 starting pitchers with Tommy John surgery, and they are looking like they're going to be out with a 4th. Not Tommy John, but he has a lat injury that I've heard many talk about is an awful injury to rehab. And depending on how severe it is, he could be done for the year. Now, the Orioles are going to take every precaution with him, but with the season that they're having, and again, just how close everything is, it would be so hard for them to be able to lose this guy who could be an ace on many teams. He's a solid 2 on this team with Corbin Burns in front of him. He's 13-4. He's got an ERA under 4. And he's having such a good season. Do you think this will kind of affect the Orioles' plans when it comes to deeper in the year? Because I mean, who do you put at that 3, or even at that 2? You can move Zach Eflin to the 2, but after that, I mean, who are you going to put there to replace him?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Look, injuries, especially to arms this year, has been a widely discussed topic, right? We've been hearing all about it, all about these issues with Starting pitchers getting hurt. I mean, you just acquired Trevor Rogers, so that does help a little bit. I could you could start to see more Keegan Aiken, I guess. You might start seeing bullpen days as well. This is something that Tigers manager AJ Hinch does quite a bit. If he's not very confident, like right now, they just took out Kenta Maeda, so it is a starter, and then bullpen day, where a bullpen guy opens first two innings, and then that's the way it's rolling, and that works when you have guys like a Corbin Burns, like a Tarek Skubal. So that might be the alternative Brandon Hyde has to go with for the time being. However, when it comes to, say, minor league arms, who would you say is waiting in the wings for Baltimore's deep prospect pool for them to pull up and maybe give a shot?
Well, they've already done that, and it hasn't worked out. With their biggest one being Cade Povich, he's not had a good year at all. And again, I get it. Like it's not always going to click immediately, but they've had to go to the minors a few times, and Povich is the one that they lean on the most. And they actually sent him back down and then called him back up for one game. They wanted him to pitch the second of a doubleheader, I believe it was last week, and he got smoked in that game. And then they sent him right back down to AAA. So there's not a lot right now in the minors that they can really rely on, if any. And I think that's why they went so hard at the trade deadline for pitchers, because they just don't have that right now. And like Grayson Rodriguez was their prized possession, and then Cade Povich wasn't at that same level, but he was someone that they see a lot of potential in. What there's still potential there, but this year's been so bad for him that he's not someone you can rely on, especially down the stretch. So that's why you saw Eflin come in. That's why you saw Rogers come in, and that's why I thought they might go for a third or someone with a higher caliber than both of those guys, especially Rogers, because he's not had a great season overall. Um,
Mm.
so I just don't know where you go from there. But I with kind of how Brandon Hyde manages, I don't see him doing bullpen days, just because of what I've seen in the past, and especially
Mm.
this season, where we've gone to six guys in the rotation rather than do a bullpen day. So I wouldn't be shocked if Povich gets another call up, which it's either going to be that or they're just going to make Albert Suarez stay there as that swing man, because he's the one who started for Rodriguez that day when he had to pull out last second. So you might just have to go to these veterans that you really can't rely on when the season comes down to an end, and someone you won't see in the postseason unless it's a bullpen situation. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. I mean, we're down the stretch, and these injuries are really starting to pile up. And I know we're not the only team. It just makes it a lot harder and a lot more stressful, especially when you really want this team to make a deep push later in the year. One thing I did want to ask you, I know we got off of it, but I want to go back to it. Jackson Holliday, I want to give you a little trivia and see see what you got. So Jackson Holliday, his 3 home runs in 3 straight games. He is the youngest American League player in the American League history to achieve that feat. Pretty awesome. 20 years old, 247 days. So he's the youngest to accomplish that. Who are second, third, and fourth? And again, this is American League, and I'll give you a hint. They are American League East, all three. Two are absolute legends of the game. Absolute legends. And the third's not a legend, or I should say the fourth on the list. He's not a legend, but uh, I'll give you a bigger hint. He is also a current Yankee. So I'll let you see what you can. Because
Okay, so current Yankee, but not a legend. Okay.
yeah,
So the first two are absolute legends. I'm gonna go
absolutely.
with the two names off the top of my head. I'm gonna say Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle.
So
Those
you're
are the
very
easy
close.
names.
Ted Williams is number two. Ted Williams did it at 21 years exactly on his 21st birthday.
Greatest hitter of all time.
Yeah. So
Pure hitter.
Holiday number
Pure hitter.
one, Williams number two.
Okay, so this other one has to be a Yankee if we're talking AL East, right? He's got
Sure.
to be a Yankee. Yeah, the smile on your face says is he okay? So if it's not Mickey Mantle, I want to say Roger Maris.
Not Maris.
Really? Okay. It's not Maris.
I think you're gonna be frustrated when you get it.
DiMaggio?
Nope.
No, not DiMaggio. Okay. Now how Gehrig?
No.
No.
These are
Okay.
super solid guesses, but
Super high. Okay. All right.
three is evading you.
So the fourth one, current Yankee, but he's not a legend. I
No.
don't want to say Aaron Judge because I would already put Aaron Judge as a
I
legend.
know.
So,
He's legend in my eyes.
let's see.
Think about the
Is
legend
it,
first. Think about the legend first, and then I'll give
yeah.
you a chance to get you that fourth one.
Okay. So it's not Maris. It can't be. It can't be Babe Ruth.
It's
He was a
Babe Ruth.
pitcher.
Babe Ruth is number 3.
Ruth's number three.
Yeah, he did it
I
21
did
years,
not think that
127
because of the
days.
pitching years.
No, he did it. He was that good. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the
It's
fourth
fair.
because I don't think you're gonna get this one. It's Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres,
Oh, that's right.
21 years,
Yes.
161 days.
You know, that would have stumped me, but I forget Glaber had a really, really hot start to his career. That's
Yeah,
something that.
exactly. But you don't think about him now. Like he's like
Mm-mm.
this year, he's only got for the whole year, he's got 10. You wouldn't think of someone who was able to do it 3 games in a row.
No.
Yeah, I
Nice,
get,
nice bit of trivia. Glad I was able to grab Ted Williams.
yeah, you got
That's
10
that at
immediately.
least makes me.
You
Ted,
got
I
10
mean,
immediately.
how could you not pick that? You said AL East. Who you think best hitters AL East? If Ted Williams is not the first one that comes to your mind, you're crazy.
You're crazy. Well, and so you're not crazy because you got that right away. And it's just crazy, man. Like Holiday's a part of that list. Well, it's still crazy
Yeah.
that Gleyber Torres is part of that list, but it's cool to see, man. Speaking
Look,
of
there's
home
more
hitting,
icons on that list than there are not. So that's a good sign for Jackson Holliday.
yes, I'm excited for him, man. I'm really pumped, and I was about to go somewhere else, but me as a diehard Oriole fan, I'm watching the game. Today is now Thursday, so Tuesday night it was game one in Toronto. The O's were down 5-1, top of the eighth inning, bases loaded, nobody out, and Jackson Holliday's up to bat, and they pinch hit for him for Austin Slater. Holliday, in his last at bat, just hit a home run. He was one of the few bright spots in this game to that point, and you take him out. And the reason that we got that he was taken out was because a relief pitcher was just brought in, so they wanted to do the lefty righty matchup. Yeah, I know I'm not alone. Trust me, I've seen all the discussion boards. That was not good. What frustrated, I think what got us the most was you had that happen, and then Ramon Urias was able to bat and struck out on 3 pitches. And then your next batter, Colton Cowser, who's riding a 17-game hitting streak, you take him out for Kobe Mayo, who's yet to get a hit in the big leagues. So Brandon Hyde was on a hot seat after that one. I know a lot of overreaction, people calling for his head, which isn't going to happen. But yeah, that baffled me. Why would you take Holliday out, who's been as hot as he's been in his second stint, for a 34-year-old journeyman you just brought in who's not having a good year? That baffled me.
Sometimes these baseball managers are just overthinking and overusing analytics and sabermetrics.
That's all
Guys,
it was. It had to be. That's what that was.
it has to be because sometimes these modern day managers are forgetting. Sometimes the the gut knows more than that piece of paper. I know what the analytics say. I know what all of that says. But if we want to look at a similar scenario, but sort of on the other side of the coin here, go back to the World Series with the Dodgers and the Rays in 2020. Think about when Blake Snell was dominating, and then Kevin Cash thought after that one hit it was all going to go downhill because of that third time through the order metric. And after that, it went downhill with the new pitchers. And Blake Snell has repeated that he was feeling something he may have not felt until his last outing with the no-hitter. So it sometimes, guys, these managers have just got to get away from that sheet of paper and just think, I trust him. He's in the majors for a reason. He is on a hot streak for a reason. Especially the Colton Cowser one. I think that one might be a little worse than pinch hitting Jackson Holliday.
That ended
Because
his hitting streak too. That was hard.
Mm, yeah, you can't do that. No,
Nah.
if a guy's got a hitting streak, I think that's when you really put that sheet of paper away and just say, I trust him. If you have a guy that's on a hot streak and he's tearing it up for you and he's up in a situation that may be a disadvantage, but he's on a hot streak, you got to trust him. That's something that baseball has been trying to get back to because the league's like, oh, trying to make all these rules to counter some of the sabermetrics like the shift and stuff. But you really have to trust your players sometimes. I get the idea of wanting to play the matchups, especially late in games, and it is the best way to counter these bullpens, but not in these situations. High leverage situations, I think you have to rely on the players that are there.
Yeah, and that wasn't the case Tuesday night. Luckily, the Orioles were able to get a win yesterday. Seth Rogers, he gave up 3 runs, 2 earned through 5, and then the O's bats came alive. Anthony Santander, he is. I don't know if you remember saying this to me, but we talked. It was probably a month, but even before the trade deadline, and you were like, should they trade Santander? Should they? And I was like, you can't at that point. I think at that point he had 20, and I was like, you can't trade 20 home runs. You can't do it. You just can't. And last night proved it. He had 2 home runs last night, number 33 and 34. He leads the O's now because Henderson went into a bit of a home run funk, so he's stuck on 29. But the 34 home runs by Santander is a new career high, and he's been a massive, massive offensive boost for this team. So, yeah, I'm really pumped that they're playing well enough where they couldn't afford to trade a guy like that if they wanted to get an elite starting pitcher. So, no, he's crushing the ball right now. But another guy, and we can end on this, Kyle Schwarber. He went to town last night. He had a 3 home run game, 7 RBIs, led the Phillies to a win, which they needed badly. And I made jokes last year because of how bad his batting average was. But it's like if his bat connects to the baseball, it's going over the wall. But can it? Because he misses it so much. Like he has so many strikeouts, his batting average was terrible. And this year, it kind of seems like a little bit of a resurgence. Again, 3 home runs. It's his 5th multi-home run game of the year already, which is pretty crazy for him. And then I look, which this stat kind of bogged my mind a little bit. The 7 RBIs he had last night were most by a Phillies player since 2012 in a game. That one's, I mean, 7 RBIs is a lot, but with as much talent on that team as they have, that's kind of surprising that's that stat. But what do you think about Schwarby?
That man is something else. Look, he basically redefined the leadoff hitter to be well, he can hit it very far. He may strike out, but he's gonna hit it far. So I love Schwarber. I love him. And the fact that he is improving here, it's awesome to see. You love these kinds of stories. I mean, batting 261 is unheard of for him.
Yes.
Considering historically he's a 190 hitter,
Yeah.
but he would mash like 30, 40 home runs, so he makes up for it. But no, this year it's tremendous. And that's a scary thing if you're not Philly fans. You have to look at that and you say, this team got close not too long ago. They haven't lost a lot of those players from that team. In fact, they've improved since then. So that is a scary sight to see, that when someone who is not typically your hit for average guy starting to hit for average and then some, it becomes very frightening. It's almost as if Joey Gallo became a 250 hitter like he was the one year in 2019. It's the scariest sight to see.
Yeah. And it gives me like Giancarlo Stanton vibes, him and Schwarber. They're both like, if they don't hit the ball over the fence, they're not hitting it at all. So no, it's cool to see, man. But at the same time, like you just said, as a non-Phillies fan, it's kind of terrifying because a lot of people are putting, and I've seen a lot of projections of O's Phillies World Series, and I feel bad for any team right now that would have to play them again. Everyone's sitting right around the same record. Like we're tied for the best record in the big leagues. But that team, I don't know. I just feel like if you back them into a corner, you got to play them in a 3, 4 game best of 7 series, whatever it is, it's gonna be hard for you. And so uh, I hope others say that about the Orioles as well. I hope they're also
Yeah.
terrified, but uh, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, man. Do you have any games, anything that sticks out to you this weekend that you're excited to see? It doesn't even have to be baseball. I know the Olympics are going on, and Team USA is playing later today. I think 3 o'clock. You got anything this weekend that sticks out to you? You're excited to see?
Well, my Tigers they're finishing up with the Mariners tonight, and then they have a 3-game weekend series with the San Francisco Giants. That would be mostly what I'm tailored to, trying to see if the Detroit Tigers can somehow salvage this month. Right now, they've lost th- uh they lost 3 or 4 to the Royals, which is just unacceptable, even if they are well ahead of the Tigers in the standings. But I right now there really isn't too much else I'm looking at. I am laser focused on seeing how my Tigers can just turn this around because they are well within striking distance of the wild card,
Yep.
and I think it might be time to start calling up some of these other younger guys and let's see more of what they have, because the problem with Detroit is they have way too many of these placeholder players in their lineup, and they have so many young bats just waiting to get an opportunity. We saw this when they sent down Spencer Torkelson and brought up Justin Henry Malloy. He's starting to fit more into his groove. You've got guys like Jace Young who could come in and take over at second base, and you can move Colt Keith over to first. Or if they're willing to do it, you give Spencer Torkelson one last chance. And then if he does nothing, you have this offseason to send him on his way.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm just excited for the Orioles to finally end this 10-game road trip. Come back home, guys. Come back home.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Canada right now. We're finishing up that series against Toronto, and then you got Tampa Bay in 3 games in Tampa. So then after that, you get to come back home against the Nats. So yeah, just come home, guys. We miss you. It's been a long time coming. Eli, as always, man. Thank you for coming on and talking baseball with me. It's always fun to have you on, and please come back on again soon, man.
Absolutely. I love coming on.
Guys, that was Eli Shelton talking a little baseball with me. And again, thank you so much for watching this episode of Clubhouse Talk. As always, I am Sean Ferguson, and I try to post at least 2 videos a week. You can also follow me on CH Talk Show on X. And if you like this video, please like it and subscribe it, and I will see you next time.